if you were gonna walk down the street in Edinburgh and be like, hey, why do people get hangovers? I think most people will be like, you're dehydrated, or it's the alcohol, or just stop drinking. That if it was dehydration, Brian, if it was just a water problem, we would have solved this issue 3,000 years ago,
Mm-hmm.
right? You go home, you go to bed, you fall asleep, but then you sweat. And then at 2 or 3 in the morning, then your brain starts to race. Why can't we enjoy something and not pay the price?
There is a lot going on at the moment, isn't there, with stress and people are trying to find an outlet and an escapism to whatever it is that they're doing. Because obviously everybody's running around at 100 miles an hour. Everybody's trying to achieve something greater, and we're trying to gather money, and we're trying to get something in foundations and for family or ourselves. So it does cause that amount of stress. And there is the old drinking culture. I mean, we are notorious drinkers in the United Kingdom. We just cannot. I mean, I live in Scotland now, and I've got a Scottish family, and they do like a drink to the Scots, but they can handle it better than the English, and the English get themselves into trouble a lot when they're drinking, especially when they're overseas. And I think this is probably what a lot of my audience was thinking is, right, we sort of, alcohol is a bad thing, but I like it because obviously everybody's saying bad things about alcohol now, and we need to obviously get off it. But also, like you mentioned very briefly, it was introduced thousands of years ago, before we had lad culture, bar culture, just,
Yeah.
the whole rave culture, like the Las Vegas for you guys. We've got Blackpool, drinking 24 hours a day, that type of thing. And that just gets out of control. But in moderation, a glass of wine a day or a glass of wine on the Friday and the Saturday is not going
Yeah.
to harm your body if you
Yeah.
can cope with it and you haven't got any underlying illnesses that must have had that or addiction issues.
Yeah.
But you do pay the price for certain drinks. And I think
Exactly.
where you've come in, you've seen, and as you're saying, let's make it easy for people to enjoy something
Hmm.
that they like,
Yeah.
because drinking is never going to go away, but
No.
we need to make it easier for people so they can enjoy it without feeling bad about it and getting ill.
Yeah. Absolutely. And there are really two choices. Drink more water because you're dehydrated and that's why you feel awful, or stop drinking.
Mm,
I mean, really, choice number three also is there's pills, potions,
mm.
patches, prods. And by prods, I mean like needles and an IV that
Oh
you
yeah.
like. There's all of these things you can do to prep your body for drinking. And then there's all these things you can do to help your body deal with the alcohol after you're done drinking. And I tried a lot of them, and Brian,
Mm,
they just didn't work.
yeah.
Especially like if you were gonna walk down the street in Edinburgh and be like, hey, why do people get hangovers? I think most people will be like, you're dehydrated, or it's the alcohol, or just stop drinking. That if it was dehydration, Brian,
Mm,
if it was just a water problem, we would have solved this issue 3,000 years ago,
mm-hmm.
right? It would have been like, I, if it solved the problem, we would do it. But that's not the issue. It's not dehydration. And this is
Mm,
where I kind of draw a line in the sand. And I'm not, I don't want to be a jerk. I also don't want to be, you need to drink water, right? And you need to be hydrated. But it's not like if you do a glass of water for every glass of wine, you're still going to wake up with the dreaded hangover because
yes.
it's not a water issue. And for most of us, it's not an ethanol issue. It's
Mm-hmm.
not the alcohol. And that's why you said it yourself. You are like, if it's a clear alcohol, I have a way better chance of feeling better. I
Yes.
have to stay away from dark and I have to stay away from wine. Why is that? And I thought the same thing. Like, why is that?
Mm,
Why is wine off of my, like, don't even think about it,
mm,
because I'll get what's called a cocktail headache with wine, which is, in between, 5 to 10 minutes to a couple hours after a couple sips of wine.
mm,
Most, you're like, oh no, oh, here it comes. And then you start doing the ibuprofen, the
yeah.
Tylenol, right, the water, the coffee, the Gatorade, the Red Bull, right? To just be like, oh crap. And then you're gonna feel tired. So you're gonna be like, I'm gonna get a great night's sleep. You go home, you go to bed, you fall asleep, but then you sweat. And then you wake up and you're going to the bathroom because you've drank so much water. And then at 2 or 3 in the morning, then your brain starts to race. And then you get the throbbing headache that you're like, make up your mind. And
Yeah.
then you wake up and the sun comes up and it's Sunday and you're like, freaking A,
Yeah.
I'm never doing this again. I just ruined my Sunday. And then you get out of bed and then you've got your whole day that is just
Ruined.
it can ruin your day. And we work hard, and
Mm,
Sunday is 50% of your weekend, and 50% of your weekend, when if I could be out doing something, being
mm.
with my friends, or just enjoying life without a headache, why can't we enjoy something and not pay the price? I get kind of fired up because I
No,
was
no.
there, and that's what started it.
I mean, that's a passion, and I love passion in people because if there's we are here to be, we shouldn't just plod along in life because otherwise you don't leave a wake behind yourself, and if you don't leave a wake, then
Yeah,
you've not changed anything in anybody's life. But before we talk about your solutions in much detail, let's start with the problem, and that problem generally is most people pouring their tipple of choice, what do that be, whatever, and they're not actually aware of what they're putting into their bodies. Do you think that's the
yeah,
case, that they're not actually aware, most people, what they're putting into their bodies? They just see it as a wine, brandy,
yep,
vodka, whatever. They're just
yeah.
putting it back. Yeah.
Yeah, alcohol is alcohol, and I think most people know that different alcohols affect them differently. They don't know why.
Mm,
I didn't know why. I had no idea. And I think that's the biggest problem is, well, not even a problem, Ryan. It's like water, right? We filter our water,
mm-hmm,
right? The municipality filters
mm-hmm,
it. You can buy filtered water at the grocery store. In fact, you can't buy unfiltered water because it's most of the time there's just too many chemicals in it or too many trace compounds that are dangerous. So if you have a refrigerator with a water thing on it, then you've probably had to replace your refrigerator filter. Right? You
yeah,
go to the
yeah.
home center, it's $30, and you're like, what the heck? But my water's tasting funny, right? So we don't think about
Mm,
how much we really just filter our water, and we filter our air, and I kind of take that same approach eventually to alcohol, like what's in it that's causing these issues.
mm-hmm.
And I thought it was the alcohol.
Do you think it's, I mean, I've heard back to, we have pub culture here. Not so much pub culture here because it's such a big country. It's very similar to Australia in a way. And I've been there and they don't have pub, they drink at home. So they always got tins or
Uh-huh.
whatever at home. And we have the pub culture. And we're sort of here, probably not so much now, but when I was growing up, very much that was part of the ritual of becoming a man. You go to the pub
Yeah,
and you have your first drink, and you generally have it with your dad or your
yeah,
granddad or some elder male in the family. And then obviously you have the secret drinks at the parties, and you sneak off behind your parents' backs and stuff. And it's almost like, right, it's taught to you, right, alcohol is the thing that you need to do.
mhm,
Don't worry about it. You're going to get an hangover. You're going to be ill. That's just the way it is. And the more you do it, the more you become used to it. And the more you just think, oh,
mhm.
well, that's just alcohol. That's what it does. And actually, do you know, listening to you so far, it does make more sense that it's not. I mean, obviously, excessive use of alcohol, which we're very good at in
Yeah,
this country, is going to make you ill, and it doesn't make any difference because if you
mhm,
drink 10 pints of lager, you're going to feel the effect.
yeah,
But a couple of bottles of some ale, some craft ale,
yeah,
or a couple of small whiskies, they're not
yeah,
going to do major damage in relation to the fact that you've overindulged. So it
yeah,
makes sense in where you're going. That, and I think a lot of people are just blissfully ignorant, Paul.
yeah,
They
yeah,
don't want to know what it's doing to them. They just want to know that Friday nights, we're going to go
yeah,
out and we're going to get so drunk I can't walk home properly. And then I'll suffer in the morning and I'll deal with it tomorrow. That's all
yeah,
right.
yeah.
Yeah.
I think you're absolutely right. And then we don't really talk about it or think about it much because there's never really been a solution.
Mm. Yeah,
I,
that's true.
I mean, drink water, or stop drinking, or maybe try some of the pills, or the before or after. But most of us have tried that with very limited success.
Yeah. Oh, we've all
It
been
just,
and done the old sort of wives' tale, greasy
uh,
breakfast or a
uh,
McDonald's on the way home.
yeah,
There is other fast food restaurants out there, obviously, by the way.
yeah, yeah. No, you're right, and it's just that it's the price you pay for enjoying alcohol
Yeah.
for for hundreds and hundreds of years. Our whole family, it's the price you pay.
Do you think though that there is? I'm just going to go off on a tangent because
Yeah.
obviously when alcohol was introduced and or invented, we didn't have 9 to 5 jobs. We didn't all
Mhm.
have ginormous mortgages. We didn't all have that
Yeah.
modern day stresses, unnecessary
Yeah.
stresses. So as we've become more industrialized and we've become more as a sort of working 7 days a week and you've got to strive, the more people that go into alcohol, so the more people are then suffering and the more people they expose you to suffering and obviously then more alcoholics because we're not all capable of coping with alcohol in a that'll do way.
Mhm.
So there isn't been a solution because it has always been because in the olden days, if you just have a coffee before you go out and you have something greasy on the way home, like a pizza or something like that, you'll be
Yeah.
fine in the morning. Don't worry, but it
Yeah.
never really worked.
Never
So
really worked.
no.
I try. I don't. I never. And here's the funny thing too, Brian, is that sometimes it would work. Like sometimes, if I had the right cocktail's the wrong word, but if I did the right things, if I had, say, some coffee and then I would do like 4 ibuprofen. That's
Mm,
a lot, right? That's too much. But if I did 4 ibuprofen and then maybe a couple charcoal pills,
okay.
I could stave off most of the nasty, the really bad effects. But then uh, it never that was only sometimes,
Mm,
right? So you try as many tricks and trades as you want. And but again, if there was something that worked, we would all be doing it, and I would not have this little business that we
mm.
started.
I,
And oh yeah, go ahead.
no, go ahead. Yeah, sorry.
I was gonna say this is where for me personally, this is where the imposter syndrome really starts. I have to keep it like I have to like keep imposter syndrome locked away
Hmm.
because uh, who am I? Who am I to figure this out?
Hmm.
And I mean that genuinely. It really. I almost wish somebody else would have figured this out that had maybe more of a scientific or doctor or it's just somebody smarter than me, right?
Mm,
And because I get that like because here's the thing, Brian, Alka works.
yeah, yeah.
I have not had a hangover in 4 years unless I don't use Alka because I forgot it, which I do. I tend to forget it when I go out. I'll have a beer and then I'll pay for it. But
Mm,
you can use this product and you don't have any negative reactions.
hmm. Mm. Well, my fiance will be the tester because of the mentioned off limits. I don't drink in the house. I
Yep.
live in a rural village in southwest Scotland, and I can tell you that we get out 3 times a year. That's it, 3 times a year. And it generally there's 2 charity events we go to twice a year, and then there's New Year's Eve, Hogmanay, as you may call it,
Yeah.
and that's it.
Yeah.
So, but
That's it.
he likes to drink in the house, and that's
Okay.
fine because he can cope with it. I can't
Yeah.
cope with
Yeah.
alcohol. It's just too much of a devil for me.
Yeah.
But I think you've answered just part 3 of the questioning because we have normalised it to the point where it did need somebody else to stop looking at the fact that it is just the way it is. If you're
Yeah.
prepared to dance with the devil, then you have to deal with
Yep.
the effects of it. And I think
Exactly.
in moderation, I have had nice times where I'll just like sometimes on a summer's evening, I do sometimes if I'm not busy with other stuff. And at the moment, being a podcast host, I am super busy, but I'll have a gin. So I
Yeah.
do like a drink and I can
Yeah.
cope with gin, but it's when I put in other things with it. So there's other bits in there, so like a mixer. And that's going to have the same nitrites and additives and things in it. And obviously, I
Even
think,
sugar. Sugar's
yeah,
a big problem when you mix that with alcohol.
it is, and I think what I'm trying to, well, we'll get to this shortly, but I already thinking my audience were thinking, well, this is going to make my night a bit boring, isn't it? If it takes away, but it's not there to take away the alcohol; it's just there to take
That's
the baddies out of it.
nailed it. Yeah. So when I first started doing this, I was like, we drink because of the alcohol, Brian. We drink because
Mm,
it does make us feel good, and I don't want to mess with that, right? If
mm,
I wanted, you can buy non-alcoholic beer, wine,
mm, mm-hmm,
whiskeys, whatever, and if that's what you like to do, great. But I didn't want to do that, so we don't mess with the alcohol. We
mm-hmm,
don't mess with the taste. We don't mess with the pH balance. The ingredients are there just to really target the the trace compounds that happen from the fermentation process.
mm-hmm.
And that's where it gets really nerdy and like super exciting now because because I know so much more about it. I've been studying it for, almost 4 years now.
Right.
And it's so stinking cool, like how alcohol is made. What happens when
Yeah.
yeast and sugar get together and have their little party and create alcohol? But with that, they create all these trace compounds that I have come to find out are responsible for these intolerance and allergic reactions that people have. So for decades, I thought it was the ethanol that was the problem. Now, again, we've talked, and again, to your audience, we're not condoning over drinking. We're just talking about moderation.
Mm,
And if you have, why is it if you could have 3 beers, you feel awful? That's a lot of beer, but one glass of red wine would make you feel even worse than that. And for
mm,
some people, one dram of whiskey, heartburn,
mm.
body aches, headaches, like almost with the first sip,
Yeah.
right? Some guys are like, I can't do it because of the heartburn. It's just too much. So there's these things. That's not the alcohol. It's
Mm,
not the alcohol doing it. It's the nasty little guys that are leftovers from fermentation and distilling that exciting enough, they're a thing. So you've got the what I call the kind of the big seven that we
mm-hmm.
really target. We all know sulfites, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Because it's on the label. So if you have a wine headache, how many times have you grab the bottle of wine, you look at it, and you're like, why do I feel so bad? And then it says contains sulfites, and there's a word, right? And it's a word that you look at, and you're like, that's why,
Yeah.
right? So we blame the sulfites. So sulfites is one, and they can cause issues. Histamine,
Yeah.
there's histamine in alcohol. And so when you take one sip of wine, it triggers a histamine response in your gut. And
Right.
histamine response is responsible for inflammation. And then inflammation is responsible for a plethora of issues that can happen. So sulfites, histamine, acetaldehyde, which is funny because acetaldehyde is what your liver turns alcohol into, right?
Mm-hmm.
When it processes it. But the fact of making alcohol creates acetaldehyde. And then we have congeners, we have quercetin, phenethylamine, and then we've got the good old-fashioned glyphosate. So the more I studied these things, and I'll take histamine for instance, I'm like,
Mm.
I what is a histamine? Like as a mechanic, I'm like, well,
Yeah.
and this is before AI, right? This is just good old-fashioned Google during COVID
Mm.
when I was mad because I woke up with a wine headache and I was just irritated because I ruined the day. The
Yeah.
day was ruined, right? So what is a histamine? What is a sulfite? What's a tannin?
Mm.
What's a tyramine? Like what are these things after I started diving into and doing all these just reading? Right. If you can read and have a little comprehension, I swear you can figure anything out, right? And with YouTube, it's even better because
Yeah.
you have people showing you. So these trace compounds, tannin for me was always like it's the mouth feel
Yes.
and it's the taste and it's that phenol and it's part of whiskey and wine and what
Mm.
makes it what it is, right? You have a Lafroig that's aged in an oak barrel. Well, it's gonna have tannins in it,
Uh-huh.
and tannins can cause all of these negative issues in people's bodies. And depending on your physiology, your age, your stress level, whether you're a man or a woman, and if
Mm.
you're a woman, whether you're perimenopausal or menopausal, or if you're a guy,
Mm.
do you have an autoimmune disease? Like that's why treating the body I wasn't interested in doing. First of all, because I'm not a doctor, so I don't really
Mm-hmm.
know. But treat the drink before you even have your first sip. So
Yes.
like the water before we drink it, it's filtered and it's just a given. The most same with the alcohol. I'm like, what if we got these things? What if we could capture them and not even all of them, just reduce that toxin load by a substantial amount. Because if you take out all the tannins, then you're not going to have a wine that's not going to taste very
Yeah.
good,
No.
right?
True.
So that's what led me on to literally my little moleskin notebook, right? And I'm going to save these pages and frame them someday. And then I'm like, histamine, like what is it? And I'm like, well, it's got a positive charge, and it's a chemical and it's a thing. Like it has, if you look it up on Wikipedia, it's got its little, its little, all its little rods and stuff. I don't even know. Again, I'm not a scientist.
No.
But how do we get rid of it without destroying the taste or the alcohol? Same with tannin, same with tyramine, same with congener, same with acetaldehyde. So that led me to basically figuring out what these things were and then ordering stuff from all over the world and trying it on myself. I was
All right.
my own tester, and for a long time it just didn't work. I would be like, okay, here we go.
I mean, it's interesting you talk about the histamine effect because obviously I'm a person with hay fever, so occasionally I'll have
Mhm.
to pop an antihistamine. So I understand the science of anti and histamine. I've worked in medicine for a little bit as well.
Yeah, yeah.
But recently found out the effects of histamine on depression.
Mm,
So ultimately, there is that age-old saying of the depressive drunk, and you have got famous depressives who were alcoholics, such as Van Gogh
yep.
and etc.
Mhm,
And
mhm.
I find that really interesting. That because I would never have thought histamine is in alcohol, and it was
Yeah,
only the other day when I was watching a reel about how it affects antidepressants because of the
yeah,
histamine, and then
yeah,
also strangely enough, that popped up before I come and have this podcast with you. Whether or not that's some sort of
yeah,
algorithm thing, I do not know. But I think because a lot of people do get depressed, for example, on
yeah,
alcohol, it can make you. It is a depressive, and it can make you quite more depressed than you already are. And
yeah.
I'm intrigued with what you're saying on the basis that hopefully, when you can take out the histamine, could that then
Mhm,
stop those people getting into a depressive mood just because they
mhm.
have one glass of red wine, for example? That is interesting. Now, you often talk about reclaiming the ritual of drinking, Paul, obviously.
Yeah.
And I'm just wondering, what do you mean by that? Just so
Uh,
our audience understands the ritual of drinking. And do you think there's a difference between drinking consciously and drinking habitually?
Yeah, I think once you understand that what is in your drink can really have those negative effects,
Mm,
and then you conscientiously are like, I'm just gonna grab the little tin of Alka.
yeah.
The conscious living or mindful drinking is really
Well, I'll refer you back to my previous guest. So,
okay.
Dr. Kelly, I think
Yes.
that's where we can see. My take is it just to maybe help you out. Habitually is in Dr. Kelly's area of expertise.
Mhm.
So that's where you end up every Friday. I've got to have 6
Boom.
pints, etc.
Yep. Boom.
Consciously is
Exactly.
you, I think. For me, consciously is me going out twice a year, 3 times a year, and I go out to this, and I say, right, gonna go out. I haven't been out for 3, 4 months, and I'm gonna go out. I'm gonna drink at least 7 bottles of Blue Wicked. I don't know if you know what that is, but it's a very it's a pop. It's an alka pop. It's blue. It's easier to digest for me than anything else. But I know that consciously that's what I'm going to do. Sometimes it doesn't like that because Sunday will go, let's have some shots. Excellent. So people will bring trays of shots out, and before you know it, you're like, oh my
Yeah.
God. But consciously, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Habitually is where Dr. Kelly comes into it. But then ultimately, that's where I used to be in. And there is a lot of people who habitually drink. And I think that's my take. I don't know if it's the same take as what you're
Yeah,
thinking.
I think it is. I think it makes you slow down,
Mm,
makes you pause, and it actually makes you pause for 5 minutes. And this is where
yes.
right, you've seen the little sachet. It needs 5 minutes of
Yes.
alone time with your drink in the
Mm,
glass. And that 5 minutes is for some people, Brian,
mm,
they cannot do it. They're like, I do not want to wait. And for me now, I'm like, you're investing 5 minutes of time. You still get the drink,
yeah.
but you're investing 5 minutes for literally a full day of life tomorrow, right? So Alka makes you pause. And that ritual is like you're putting it in your glass. You're being mindful of what you're doing. You're removing this toxin load from the drink before your first sip. You set your timer for 5 minutes, and during that 5 minutes, we're very adamant about it needs movement, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's a filter, so it needs some movement. And then when that timer goes off, not only have you whetted your appetite for whatever you're going to be drinking, but you've also paused and let yourself, man, I don't even know if that makes sense,
No, no,
but
it does completely.
yeah, you just let yourself, instead of just like getting the drink and drinking it and then paying the price for it afterwards, we're pausing, we're being mindful about what we're doing, and we're just slowing it down a little bit.
Mm.
And then when you do drink and you feel awesome, amazing, less stressed, then it really starts to make sense about why slowing down a little bit is really nice. And then but for me, I drink a little bit less with
Yes.
Alka because I order a second glass of wine. I have to wait my 5 minutes. I am mindful. Most people will come up when they see you drop this into a drink. Trust me, if you are not a social person, then kind of sneak it in because it will draw attention. You will draw attention to yourself. But it starts amazing conversations with people who feel the same as you. They're like, man, I can't I or my wife can't drink anymore because she hasn't had anything to drink in 2 years or 10 years or
Mm.
20 years because she feels so bad. So it's a really good conversation starter, and you create this new relationship in a really nice way with with something that should make you happy.